That was no easy task in itself, just to put those down. Man, I'm all out of breath trying to fish those in there and screw them and stuff. Okay, I've got that all set now. All right, now I guess I can go and take that over to the toilet. Whew. You know this is an old toilet when you see a plunger like this one. I have never seen one this small. Look at the end. Look how small that is. I've never seen one that small. It almost looks like the rest of it's been chopped off. You know how usually they're really super wide, like about like that. Man, guess I better move that and get those things out of my way. Remember to have all this clean and scraped. If you see any remnants of any salt deposits or anything like that, you got to get all that out of there. Our gasket is only as good as this is clean. Do a good job. Then put the tank back up there. When you're moving around the tank, just be careful that it's dry on the sides. Last thing you want to do is slip and drop this, because it might be kind of hard to get another one. The very same as your toilet. Like I said, not all toilets are the same. Okay? Okay, for right now, that's all we're gonna do. See, it's kind of sloppy in there and cattywampus. Just make sure you have it balanced on there, and then we're gonna reach down there and put the nuts. Class is now in session. What you gotta do, gotta make sure that doughnut, that gasket under there is positioned properly. If you have that off, I see how this is kind of wiggly wobbly. You gotta make sure that's positioned right. You may have to tilt it forward, put it back, sideways, whatever. Because the last thing you want to do, if you're not taking care, you may tighten this one up and it might be off, let's say like that. See how that's crooked? You can tell that's crooked, but let's say you tighten that nut up all the way and you think, oh, I'll just go over here to the left and I'll tighten this one down as much as I tighten this one over here. And you keep going and going and going, and it's getting tight, but you think you got to go even further because you're for sure certain it's got to be the same. This is sticking out 5/8 of an inch below the end of the nut. You know, this side needs to be done the same or something like that. This is just an example now, okay? And you go and you try to tighten this one further or something, and you can't get it, and you tighten it down and it cracks. You could crack this tank because you started off with it crooked. You know, you've got to get this positioned right, look at it, see if it's level, and look and see how it's setting on your little gasket here. And then we're going to start tightening. We're going to put the nuts and washers on there and stuff. Then we're going to start tightening it up. And I want to make sure I get it even. You know what I mean? If this side is going up 3/8, I'll make this side 3/8. Make the back side 3/8. Okay, look at it. Position it, do this one up a little bit more, the same amount all the way around. So as I'm tightening it up, I'm always getting this nice and flat. I can look at that, see if it's level, and check all that kind of stuff out. Because what they tell you is do not over tighten these nuts. If you over tighten them, you could crack this. And this is where I get paranoid, because I'm going to be careful with this the best of my knowledge. And once I get it snug, and I get it all even all the way around, then I'm going to leave it, fill it up with water, check it out. If it's dripping just barely, then I might tighten a little bit more, a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. You know what I mean? Because this is porcelain, remember. Last thing you do, you tighten that up just a little bit too much, doing, it's all over. Crack City. Now you remember that bushing, that that was attached underneath here, and it was kind of fat, and I said we're going to put the washer right up against there. Well, it's not. That's the spacer in between here. That allows for your other bushings. So that's why I'm really glad they gave us that rubber. Do you remember? Hope you were following that. If you weren't, you got to catch this. Okay? Sometimes they don't give you these rubber washers, and when I took it off, when I took the toilet off, I didn't have these rubber washers. There weren't any there. All there was a washer and a nut. They had a washer and a nut up here, you know, and they tightened it up. And this was right up against the porcelain. You've got to have this rubber washer. And it's about 1/16 of an inch thick. It's just all thick piece of rubber. Then you've got the washer. Then the nut. So you tighten that up. You've got that gap. That rubber is rubbing on your porcelain. You're less likely to crack it. You're going to make a nice snug fit. Do you see what I mean? You go up just a hair tight. At least this washer is not touching tight up against your porcelain. It's going tight. It might be digging into the rubber just a hair, and the rubber's got just enough give on it that it may not crack your porcelain tank. But don't let me fool you. You could still crack that tank, so be careful. So now I got the rubber and the metal washer. I'm going to push that in there. I'm just going to finger tighten it. You know, I'm just going to get it up there fairly snug. Not all the way snug, just loose a little bit. I've already kind of positioned this, and that looks pretty good about there, right? Now I've got to do the left side. When you put this up, make sure you don't think, yeah, the washer and the metal washer, and you might forget about it, and you know, you could put that up first, then the rubber gasket, and then the nut. Well, that's wrong. If you're not paying attention, you might do that, okay? I'm not saying you're silly or anything, but if you're just not paying attention, that could happen. I'm not left-handed, so it takes me a while to re-figure out which way to tighten that, you know? Okay, I'll just make that snug, and then I gotta reach around the back side. And on here, they gave me 4 washers, which was nice. In case you lose one, you've got one to finish your project. So, you know, I only need one more washer like that. So I'm gonna save 1 washer, and I'll put that in my arsenal for next time. I haven't put you to sleep yet, have I? Sometimes people say I talk too much. You know, I figure the more I talk, the more you learn. So keep that in mind. Okay, I've got the rubber washer first, then the metal washer, then the nut. Okay? Okay. Now I can look at that and do a once over and see how that's positioned. See if how my gasket's doing down there. I want to try to get that gasket smashed down nice and level and even. Because see, if that was tilted, could you see that maybe one side's not going to be as tight as the other, for fear that you might think, oh, that's too tight, I can't go anymore, or else I'm gonna break the tank, but yet you still get a leak over here. That's because your rubber gasket may not be down there nice and snug, smashing straight down. So that's why you got to do it even, kind of take a look at it, and then, and only then will you start snugging it up. Okay, and it looks pretty good right there. I'm just going to make it snug by hand first, just with my fingers. You know? Okay. Now get ready to tighten this down. And I'm just going to use a little crescent wrench like that. You don't need anything more than that. Okay, so I have these hand tight, and the screws are up pretty high. I know I need to suck that down. When I suck that down, I'm going to make that rubber tighter inside here. Now if you have a different setup, obviously they give you different rubber gaskets and bushings for around the bolts, but this is how this set came, so I'm sure I'm fine. Okay. Now before I tighten that up, I'm just going to take my tape measure and measure from the bottom of the nut to the bottom of the bolt. I got 3/4 on that one. I got a long 3/4 there, which means that's a 1/16 over 3/4. And the back side is a long 3/4. That means a 1/16 over. So I've got it pretty good. Right here on this right hand side, I'm going to tighten this up by hand a little bit more. Check that out. I got a long 3/4. That's 13/16 for those of you out there that don't know what a long 3/4 is. That means it's a 1/16 over 3/4. 3/4 is 12/16. Your tape measure is measured in increments of a 1/16. Or 30 seconds if you want to go even further. So, you know, I'll make a little video of that one of these days on how to read a tape measure, but, you know, I'm looking at that. Doesn't that look nice and level too? I don't have it tilted forward too much or backwards too far, tilted to the right too much, tilted to the left too much. Looks pretty good. Okay, so now I start tightening this up. I'm going to tighten up this side maybe 1/8 of an inch, and I'm going to go over here and tighten that up 1/8 of an inch. Tighten the back side up 1/8 of an inch, and kind of start checking things out like that. Do you know what I mean? So I'm going nice and even. Hey, it's going to take a few minutes for that, but wouldn't you rather be safe than sorry?